In this video, I want to show you how you structure your call time settings. Now, this integrates obviously with office hours, so what your regular office hours are going to be each week, which is then overridden by any particular special hours that you may have. Now what we're going to do is work out how many slots we can put in, and the computer or the system will automatically do this for you based on the inputs you give it here as to how many call slots you want and how long those call slots are during those periods of time that you configured in the actual hours that you've given us so far. So first things first is that what you need to do is set a default here, and it will overwrite all office and staff hours for defined dates and times. So what we mean by that is if you have something in here, anything else that you've got in here will overwrite. So this is the main thing of how many hours you're fitting based on the office hours. So if we only have one office hour available on a Monday, but your appointment time you want to last is 90 minutes, then we will not show a slot on that Monday because you've not got the configured amount of time to match what you've configured in here to show a slot for that Monday. If you had 2 hours and you configured a 90-minute slot, then of course we would show one available slot. So just be aware of that when you're configuring both your office, special hours, and obviously linking it into this call time setting. But again, these are things that we do need because otherwise we can't show the appointment structure to people who wish to book a call with you. So the first thing you need to look at, maximum time per call. Okay, so this is the amount of time that you want to allow yourself for the call. Now, we always recommend that you allow yourself more in the earlier starts of your call as you start to learn the process and the systems, etc., and get used to doing calls. So I would, in most cases for beginners, expect you to kind of look at 2-hour slots here, and then eventually you can bring it down to 90 minutes perhaps for a slot. Okay, so but you can configure it to do anything. But let's say here it's defaulted here at 2-hour call slots. But if I want to change that to, let's say, 1 hour, which I don't recommend, but let's say you did, then you just configure it down to 1 hour. If, however, I wanted to do it for 90 minutes, I'd come in here, I'd change that for 90 and change the drop down to minutes, and I now have 90-minute call slots rather than 2 hours, okay? But it's pre-configured at 2 hours, that's why we put it there. So I'm just going to pop that back to 2 hours. Now, the next thing is how many call limits per day, okay? So this is how many that you want to have in one day. Now, the maximum we recommend at any one point should be 5, no more than that, because that's in like 10 hours of calls, which is a lot of calls. But ultimately, you can set how many you want in here per day just by clicking the little up and down arrow next to here, and that will then do it. So what this basically means now, every day that you have availability of more than 2 hours, we will show at least 1 or maybe up to 2 call slots. So if, for sake, I'm working from 9 in the morning till 6 at night, okay, that's 9 hours, okay? So what we'll do is we'll show 2-hour call slots during that period that you're available. Now, obviously, if I want to put in more than that, that would give me 6 hours of call slots. And if I want to do another one here, that will be 8 hours of call slots, which means I have 1 hour left, okay? Now, that will then be provisioned at the end of the day, unless you tell us, obviously, in special hours that you want to, or office hours, you want to make a break in the middle of the day, as I've shown you in the office hours video, which you can check out in the help section. So we recommend, like I say, put this at sort of 3 to 4 a day. That means you will not have any more calls than 3 or 4, whatever number you determine in here per day. So what that means is if someone comes in to view a booking and wants to book a call, but you don't have the availability in that day, it'll just go on to the next day. Okay, so you have 3 slots available, let's say, for Monday. Okay, but then the 4th person comes along and now wants to book a call. They will now not see Monday because there's no slots left on Monday. It moves to Tuesday and then shows the next 3 slots available. Okay, so Tuesday, the next 3 slots available. Wednesday, next 3 slots. So it moves along as the call availability gets taken up. We're not just setting an availability of just 3 calls and that's it. This is a per day limit. So as one person books a call, it releases the next slot that's available either in that day or the next available day that you have within either office or special hours setup, okay? But you don't have to worry about this. It'll do it automatically and configure it automatically based on the inputs here, okay? So you'll see it yourself as you go through this, how this works. But ultimately, you just tell us how long you want the calls to be and how many slots maximum, how many calls you want to take per day as your maximum availability. That's what you do there. And then the next important thing here is giving people 2 things. Firstly is the maximum number of call slots to show. Now, as you know, we teach you to ensure that you don't let people book more than 3 days in advance, okay? So what we suggest here is that you can either do it in days or slots or hours. So we recommend either days or slots, depending on how you configure. Now, the reason we're giving you the configuration to do this is some of you may be working small amounts of hours, so therefore you may only have one slot available per day if you're working in the evening, let's say. So if we only show three days worth, there's only 3 slots available there. Okay, so what we want to do is kind of give people the opportunity here to configure this how you see that you want your days to work. So we recommend if you're going to do days, do no more than 3 days. Okay, no more than 3 days. And that basically means it will only show 3 days maximum. So if you've got a load of slots availability, it will only show 3 in one day, but also only show up to 3 days in advance, no more, because we don't want to give them 101 different options to select because they won't select a call booking date. If we do it where we only give them, say, 1 option or 2 options or 3 options a day maximum for the next 3 days, then they're much more likely to choose one that suits them. If we give them much more than that, they won't choose one because it doesn't look like you're busy and there's no urgency in doing it. So we recommend if you're doing 3 days, again, we pre-configured this so as it's loaded automatically, it says 3 days. But you might want to do, only want to show the next 3 slots and that's it. I wouldn't recommend that. If you're going to do slots, then just configure this up to about 6 or 8 slots maximum, and then basically you'll show 8 slots from there. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and we're going to do 3 days because I recommend 3 days, and that's how the system is configured. Okay, and then the final thing that you need to configure in your call time settings is the minimum call booking delay. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, what you don't want someone to do, believe it or not, is to register for your webinar and then immediately book a call within the hour, because they're kind of too keen. It means they won't have time to complete the questionnaire, go through the indoctrination process, etc. Send them to that page that we talk about in the indoctrination page, which again you'll see in future support videos in the help section. But the key thing is we don't want to do that because they're kind of too keen. Now, conversely, we don't want to leave it too long, which is why we configure the maximum call slots to show in number of days as no more than 3 days. So what you want to do here is put in a minimum call booking of, let's say, 1 day or hours you can do, okay? And what that basically means is, again, the system automatically works out from all of this that if someone is let's say 8 o'clock tonight wanting to book a call slot, so let's say they view a webinar now at, let's say, 8 o'clock in the evening, the first available call slot won't be for 1 day thereafter because it gives them time to complete the questionnaire, watch your indoctrination video, etc. So therefore now they're ready for the call. If you do it sooner than that, then you will find they're not ready for the call and they probably won't sign up. Okay, if we leave it too long, then we kind of have the same issue where they're too disinterested and won't show up for the call. So you want to kind of configure this to be either 1 day or no less than 12 hours. We recommend on here, but I recommend 1 day to begin with, and then that means now people can't book a call slot. It also means for you, you're not going to get any last minute quick call bookings at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for 8 o'clock tonight, and you're not quite ready. And suddenly you're like, oh, I'm on the back foot. So at least this way you're going to make sure you get the best result of that balance of giving people enough choice for their call bookings that fits you and your regular slots that you have available, fits you with your special hours that you put into the system, and it can fit you as regarding how much time you need to complete the call and how many call slots a day you want so you don't burn out, etc. So configure that system. Over time, you want to come back and play with it as you get used to the pace of sales and how you want to configure it for yourself, and you can obviously change that. But they're the recommendations that we recommend, obviously, setting up the system with, preloaded anyway, and you can configure any of these to suit your own time call settings as well.